I still can't believe it. Even now, months later, the words echo in my head, Dad. It came from a complete stranger, a young woman I'd never seen before, and it shattered my entire world into a million pieces. Imagine living your whole life, thinking you know who you are, what your family is, only for a single overheard word to unravel decades of carefully constructed lies. Was I wrong to dig into it, to expose a truth that some people clearly wanted to keep buried? Or would you have done the same, compelled by an invisible thread pulling you towards a secret you didn't even know existed? It all started on a Tuesday, an utterly unremarkable day that became the most pivotal day of my life. I was at the local park, my usual routine. I'm a creature of habit, always have been. Every morning, weather permitting, I take a long walk, grab a coffee from the little stand near the duck pond, and sit on my asterisk bench, the one under the old oak tree. It's peaceful, a quiet start to my day before the hustle and bustle of my small business kicks in. I own a modest carpentry shop, nothing fancy, but it pays the bills and I enjoy working with my hands. I've always been content with my simple life. I'm in my late 50s, a widower for 5 years now. My wife, Sarah, was the light of my life, and losing her left a hole that time has only partially filled. We never had children, something we both regretted, but we made peace with it, pouring our love into each other and our nieces and nephews. Or so I thought. On this particular Tuesday, the park was a bit busier than usual. There was a school trip, a swarm of little kids in matching bright yellow shirts, chasing pigeons and making enough noise to wake the dead. I usually avoid the park when it's like that, but I was already there, coffee in hand, and my bench was free. I settled in, trying to enjoy the sunshine despite the chaos. That's when I saw her, a young woman, maybe early 20s, with long, dark hair and eyes that seemed strangely familiar. She was standing a little distance away, near the playground, looking flustered as she tried to wrangle a particularly energetic toddler who was intent on scaling the slide backward. She wasn't part of the school group, I could tell. She seemed to be there with her own child. I didn't pay her much mind at first. Just another young mother trying to survive the daily grind. But then, as I was about to take a sip of my now lukewarm coffee, she pulled out her phone. Her back was mostly to me, but I could hear snippets of her conversation, her voice a low, urgent murmur. She seemed agitated, her shoulders tense. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, mind you, but the park was noisy, and her voice, though soft, carried. I heard her say, "No, I'm at the park, he's still here. I don't know, I just saw him." Then she turned slightly, just enough for me to catch her profile, and her eyes, those eerily familiar eyes, flickered over me for a fraction of a second before quickly darting away. It was that quick glance, that flicker of recognition, that sent a prickle of unease down my spine. And then came the word, clear as a bell, despite the surrounding noise, laced with a strange mixture of frustration and something else I couldn't quite place. Dad. My hand froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips. Dad. She was talking to someone on the phone, clearly about me, and she called me Dad. My mind raced. Dad, me, it had to be a mistake. She must have been talking about someone else, or maybe she said man, and I misheard. But no, the sound had been distinct. Dad. The word hung in the air, echoing in my head, a jarring chord in the symphony of my ordinary morning. I looked around instinctively to see if there was anyone else she could have been referring to, but the nearest man was an elderly gentleman engrossed in a newspaper, far too old to be a young woman's father, and besides, her gaze had definitely swept over me. A cold dread began to seep into my bones. Who was this woman? Why would she call me Dad? And why was she speaking about me in hushed, urgent tones on the phone? My heart started to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to confront her, to ask her what she meant, but I was paralyzed by a fear I couldn't name. A fear of the unknown, of whatever truth lay hidden behind that single, shocking word. She finished her call, tucked her phone away, and scooped up the toddler, who was now covered in sand. She walked away quickly, not looking back, blending into the stream of park goers. I watched her go, a million questions screaming in my head, leaving me feeling utterly disoriented. I went home that day a different man. The carefully constructed piece of my life had been shattered. I couldn't stop thinking about her, about that word. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, my carpentry tools lying idle, my mind replaying the scene over and over. Those eyes, they were so familiar, but from where? My family is small. My sister, Clara, is my only living close relative, and she lives a few towns over. We're not estranged, but we're not exceptionally close either. Our parents passed away years ago. I'd always believed I knew my family tree, simple and straightforward. But now, this young woman, this stranger, had planted a seed of doubt that was quickly blossoming into a terrifying suspicion. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was talking to her actual father on the phone, and I just happened to be in her line of sight. But the urgency in her voice, the way she looked at me, the quick darting of her eyes, it felt too deliberate, too specific. And the word Dad was too clear. I knew with a gut-wrenching certainty that something was profoundly wrong. I remembered Sarah's distant cousin once having a scandal involving an unknown child, but that was years ago, a different branch of the family altogether. This felt personal, directly aimed at me. Over the next few days, I found myself drawn back to the park. I told myself it was for my routine, for the coffee, for the quiet. But deep down, I was looking for her. I wanted to see her again, to perhaps hear her speak, to find some clue, any clue, that would explain the mystery. I didn't see her for a few days, and a part of me, the part that wanted to cling to my comfortable ignorance, almost breathed a sigh of relief. But then, on Friday, there she was again, in the same spot, near the playground, with the same energetic toddler. She was talking on the phone again, her voice still hushed, her body language tense. I moved closer, subtly, pretending to adjust my jacket, trying to get within earshot without being obvious. I heard her say, "I think he's starting to notice me. I can't just go up to him. What if he reacts badly?" She sounded scared. And then, once again, the word, Dad. My heart lurched. This wasn't a mistake. This was about me. I spent the weekend in a turmoil of emotions. Anger, confusion, a strange sense of betrayal. Who was she? Why was this a secret? And more importantly, who was keeping it from me? The only person who could possibly shed light on this was my sister, Clara. She knew our family history inside and out. But the thought of asking her, of potentially uncovering a devastating truth, filled me with dread. What if Sarah knew? What if everyone knew but me? The thought was unbearable. I decided I needed to get more information before I confronted anyone. I'm not a detective, but I knew I couldn't let this go. The woman's face, those familiar eyes, had haunted my waking hours and invaded my dreams. I remembered her car, a beat-up blue sedan, from the second time I saw her. I'd noticed it parked by the edge of the park lot. It had a bumper sticker for a local organic grocery store. It wasn't much, but it was a lead. The next day, I drove to that grocery store, hoping against hope that I might see her car, or even her. It felt like an insane thing to do, but I was desperate, and miraculously, her car was there. I recognized the bumper sticker, the small dent on the rear fender. I felt a surge of adrenaline, my heart pounding in my chest. I waited, for what, I didn't know. Just to see her again, to confirm it was her, to maybe follow her home. It felt like something out of a bad movie, but I was beyond caring about how I looked. After about 20 minutes, she emerged from the store, pushing a grocery cart with the toddler in tow. She loaded the groceries into her car, strapped the child into a car seat, and drove off. I followed, keeping a safe distance, my mind a whirlwind of anxiety and anticipation. She drove to a modest house in a quiet suburban neighborhood, nothing fancy, but well kept. I parked a few streets away, my engine off, watching the house. I knew I couldn't just knock on her door. It would be too sudden, too aggressive. I needed a plan. The next day, I started my investigation in earnest. I discreetly asked around, using my network of local business owners, if anyone knew a young woman with a toddler who lived in that particular neighborhood. It took a few days, but eventually, an old acquaintance, a real estate agent, mentioned a young woman named Lily who matched the description, who had moved into that area a couple of years ago. Lily, the name felt right. He didn't know much about her, just that she was a single mother. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, a man who thought he knew his entire life story, now facing the possibility that a huge, monumental piece was missing. My whole identity, everything I believed about my past, was in question. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted her directly? Would you have gone to your sister first? Or would you have tried to forget about it and live in blissful ignorance, pretending you never heard that word? Tell me honestly, what would you have done? I couldn't forget it. The truth, no matter how painful, had to come out. I decided to confront Clara first. It felt like the right thing to do, to give her a chance to explain, to offer her perspective. I drove to her house that same evening, my stomach a knot of nerves. She was surprised to see me, as I rarely dropped by unannounced. We sat in her living room, and I tried to be calm, but my voice trembled when I finally said, "Clara, I need to ask you something important, something that's been bothering me deeply." She looked at me, her brow furrowed with concern. "What is it, Mark? You look like you've seen a ghost." I took a deep breath. "Have you ever kept a secret from me? A big secret about our family, about my past?" Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of something that looked like fear, or maybe guilt. "What are you talking about, Mark? Of course not. What would make you ask such a thing?" Her voice was a little too quick, a little too defensive. I leaned forward, my gaze unwavering. "I think I saw my daughter today, Clara, or at least I heard a young woman call me Dad. A woman I've never met before." The color drained from her face. She looked like she'd been struck. Her hands flew to her mouth, and her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Mark," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Oh, my dear brother, I knew this day would come." And then the dam broke. She told me everything. It was a story that rewrote my entire life. Years ago, before I met Sarah, when I was in my early 20s, I had a brief, whirlwind romance with a woman named Maria. We were young, reckless, and deeply in love, or so I thought at the time. We dated for a few months, and then, suddenly, she disappeared. Vanished without a trace. I was heartbroken, confused, and tried to find her, but she was gone. I eventually moved on, met Sarah, and built a life with her, never truly understanding what had happened to Maria. Clara revealed that Maria hadn't just disappeared. She had left because she was pregnant, and my parents, our parents, had orchestrated her disappearance. They were incredibly old-fashioned, deeply concerned with appearances, and absolutely horrified by the idea of me, their only son, having a child out of wedlock. They believed it would ruin my future, my reputation. They paid Maria a significant sum of money, promising her a fresh start in another city, on the condition that she never tell me about the child and never return. They even went so far as to threaten to make her life impossible if she ever tried to contact me. Maria, young and scared, with no family of her own, took the money and left. Our parents, in their twisted way, thought they were protecting me. They swore Clara to secrecy, making her promise on her mother's grave that she would never reveal the truth. Clara, much younger than me at the time, and terrified of our domineering parents, had kept the secret. She'd watched Maria leave, knowing the truth, carrying the weight of it for decades. She told me that Maria had given birth to a beautiful baby girl, my daughter, whom she named Lily. Clara had occasionally kept tabs on Maria and Lily over the years, from a distance, feeling immense guilt but bound by her promise to our parents. She had seen Lily grow up, always wondering when, or if, I would ever find out. She had even seen Lily at the park sometimes, bringing her own child there, knowing that I was often there too. She said she always held her breath, fearing this exact moment. I sat there, stunned. My world had not just been shattered, it had been completely rebuilt with a new, shocking foundation. I had a daughter I never knew existed, and a granddaughter. My parents, the people I had loved and respected, had lied to me, manipulated me, stolen my chance to be a father. The anger that surged through me was volcanic, a burning rage I had never experienced before. But beneath the anger was an aching sadness, a profound sense of loss for all the years I had missed. The next day, armed with the truth, I drove back to Lily's house. This time, I didn't just watch. I walked up to her front door and knocked. My heart was a drum solo against my ribs. The door opened, and there she was, Lily, those familiar eyes now wide with surprise and a hint of fear. She recognized me. I could see it in her face. Lily, I managed, my voice hoarse. She nodded slowly, clutching the doorframe. Yes, my name is Mark. I think we need to talk. We talked for hours that day. I told her what Clara had told me. She listened, her expression shifting from shock to tears, to a quiet understanding. She confirmed everything. Her mother, Maria, had told her the truth when she turned 18. Maria had eventually remarried and had a good life, but the secret had always weighed on her. Lily had always wanted to find me, her biological father, but Maria had always warned her against it, fearing my potential rejection or the wrath of my long, dead parents. Lily had been coming to the park, hoping to see me, to find a way to approach me, but she was scared. She had been talking to her mother on the phone about me, debating how to break the news. My chance encounter, my overheard word, had been the catalyst. We talked about everything: her childhood, her dreams, her daughter, my granddaughter, whom she introduced to me as Maya. Maya, a bright-eyed, curious little girl, my flesh and blood, running around the living room, completely oblivious to the magnitude of the moment. It was surreal, overwhelming, and utterly beautiful. The aftermath was a whirlwind of emotions. I spent countless hours with Lily and Maya, making up for lost time. We built a relationship, slowly but surely, tentatively at first, and then with a deep, undeniable connection. Lily and I discovered so many shared traits, quirks, and even a similar dry sense of humor. It was like looking into a mirror and seeing a reflection I never knew I had. My carpentry shop suddenly felt a lot less lonely. Lily even started bringing Maya to visit, and the sound of a child's laughter echoing through the workshop was a balm to my soul. The pain of my parents' betrayal still stings, a deep wound that will probably never fully heal. I confronted their memory, the idealized versions of them I had carried in my heart, and wrestled with the anger. But the joy of finding Lily and Maya, of finally becoming a father and a grandfather, far outweighs the sorrow. Clara and I mended our relationship too. She apologized profusely for her silence, and I, seeing the immense burden she had carried, forgave her. She's now an adoring aunt and great-aunt, reveling in the family she thought was lost. This whole experience taught me that life can throw you the most unexpected curveballs, even when you think you've got it all figured out. It taught me about the power of secrets, how they can twist and distort lives, and how the truth, no matter how painful, eventually finds a way to surface. It's a messy, complicated journey, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I finally have the family I always yearned for, a legacy I never knew existed. So, if you've ever felt like there's a missing piece in your life, or if you've ever had a gut feeling that something wasn't quite right, listen to it. Sometimes, the most shocking revelations are just a single overheard word away. Like this video, if you were on my side in this incredible journey. Subscribe for more stories like this, where truth triumphs over secrecy. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you think. I'll see you all in the next story.